Bhagavad Gītā Om Jaya Bhagavad Gītā Hariya Kamala Viharini Hariya Kamala Viharini Sunara Subuni.
So now I give the screen to Nicole Richarlson. Are you with us, Nicole?
Yes. Hi.
Yes. You have the screen, please.
Thank you. My name is Nicole Richarlson, and I feel deeply honored and grateful to be part of the Bhagavad Gītā conference here today. The verse that resonated with me in the Bhagavad Gītā is from chapter 5, verse 21. It goes, "The one who does not cling to sensations from the outside, who finds joy in the self, and who joins with Brahman through yoga, reaches endless joy." So I've always aspired towards finding endless joy in my daily life. And over the past 2 years, I've invested in this aspiration, and I've been working with an incredible teacher, guru, and friend, Nicole Richarlson, and studying the traditional tantric teachings. And through daily service and self-mastery practices, I feel I have a deeper sense of self-awareness and a better understanding of myself and where I fit into the world that we live in. So the conceptualization of this verse is in how we experience ourselves in this world. We may experience ourselves as a separate being to others and the world around us, or we may experience ourselves as one with the entire universal God. Finding joy in the self is experiencing oneself as one with God or universal energy. If we cling to sensations from the outside world to bring us joy, then we will ultimately see ourselves as a separate being from the universe. In Western culture, how often do we hear, "Once I've earned X amount of money, I'll feel financially secure." Or "Once I've got that job promotion, I'll feel successful." "If I buy that pretty dress, I'll feel beautiful wearing it." And if my partner could be more supportive, we would have a more loving relationship. If I could achieve all my daily tasks, I will feel satisfied with my day. So these kinds of thoughts are relying on external factors for security, success, beauty, connection, and satisfaction. The problem with these external factors is that they're always changing. When we cling to these external factors, we are doing so in hope of trying to control an outcome in our life that we ultimately feel satisfied with. So real joy lies within the self, not the external. Once we see ourselves as one with God, we will find that inner joy that we so desire. So the purpose of our human life is to realize God while we are here on earth, to no longer see ourselves as separate, but part of a whole universal field of energy. We are ultimately pure consciousness having a human experience here on earth. God is often referred to as consciousness or universal energy and can take on different aspects and names depending on a person's belief and religion. Whatever form of God is worshipped, it is all an aspect of the same God. Everything is a continuous field of matter and energy. The things we see out there are not separate from ourselves. We may, however, perceive them as separate due to the limitation of our senses. When your senses attach to a sense object, we may experience a feeling of pleasure or pain, cold or warmth, etc. These experiences are fleeting, they come and go. The mind takes in messages from the 5 body senses and forms its own experiences based on past experiences, stories, or conditionings, and that have formulated within the mind. What we experience in our world is our own nervous system, and the objects of the world are in the mind, which forms the perception of our experience. We are ultimately bound by the psyche. Our mind cannot comprehend this unity as divine consciousness, as it sees things separate in name and form. This is an illusion, and our mistake is taking this as our ultimate reality. To experience unity consciousness, we need to remove ourselves from the senses, because it is the senses that tie us to duality. Through self-awareness practices, we may become aware of how ways of thinking affect our body. Thinking can lead to desires, habits, and ways of living with physical consequences. The ego, however, keeps our minds spinning and in a fragmented state. Seeing through this divided mind, we will see our life divided wherever we look. This illusion is the sense of duality, and from this place, we are clinging to outside sensations to bring us joy. We can, however, experience different levels of consciousness, depending on our level of awareness. Always returning to unity consciousness is part of our spiritual practice and growth. As our mind stills, it transcends into a higher mode of knowing, and duality disappears. The soul then rests in pure consciousness. This is the internal place of joy and peace. Through the principles of yoga and the power of self-will, we can train our mind to be free from sensory experiences. Yoga is a disciplined meditation practice. To yoke means to bind together. In this practice, we see ourselves and the world we live in as not separate from God, but as a whole manifestation of God. Nothing can dissipate God. When we have God in our mind, in every thought, see God in all things, carry God with us, and become one with God, then we cannot dissipate, as we are one with God. Let's take a deeper look into the nature of the mind, as that is always changing. Part of our spiritual practice and growth is about not being affected by these changes and staying the same in pleasure and pain, because ultimately it is all energy, right? Through meditation practices, we dissolve the mind into the heart space and reach a core-centered place of consciousness. From this heart-centered space, where we are in union with God and free from the constraints of the mind, we are in full awareness of our reality as an aspect of consciousness. We call this our essence nature. This is where we would discover unity, where we experience the same reality without and within ourselves. We are an open channel to allow energy to flow freely through us, and we do not become attached to any outcomes. We can stand aside and watch with detachment what our senses are reporting on, and never have to comment on their likes or dislikes. This is the practice of yoga, the perfect evenness of the mind, where we see everything the same, not labeling anything as good or bad, or better or worse. By not being affected by these changes in the mind, we feel the same in pleasure and pain. Being in a state of endless joy is not always being happy. It is being in a place of equanimity with all. The discipline is looking at all aspects of ourselves evenly and yoking the powers of our body, mind, and soul to God. We often have selfish attachments to material things, outcomes, and people. Ego, attachments, and bondage of selfish conditionings keep us in a state of separation. Freedom comes in the renunciation of selfish thought, word, and action. If we are attached to these, then we will be affected by the results of our actions. By adopting an attitude of pure motive, we must renounce the fruits of our actions. Therefore, we have the rights to actions, but not the fruits of those actions. And it becomes clear which actions should or shouldn't be done. This is the practice of surrendering everything in love. It is a selfless service of dissolving all attachments of the ego in the desire to give everything we do to God, relinquishing the desire for personal reward and offering the fruits of our actions to consciousness. When our whole being understands that God is in every creature, including ourselves, we will then act accordingly and not harm ourselves or others. We will see all life as God's manifestation that we are a part of. The self we see is not different from God, nor is it different from person to person. The self is one, the same in every creature. God is infinite in the human form, and this is the divine ground of our existence. Other people in our lives are offerings from God. When we look to others to bring us joy, we are in a place of duality. We are often given opportunities for learning through people and experiences that may lead us back into this divine unity consciousness. When we are completely merged with God or consciousness, we are then the master of our own universe. Self-mastery is being able to penetrate below the world of the senses when all separation dissolves and we are in a place of essence nature. This is when we are operating in an energy field of pure divine consciousness, or one with God. From this place, God is guiding us, and we are flowing through life with utter peace and tranquility. Our outer world reflects our inner world, which is complete harmony, love, and joy for all. The energy field that we are operating in consists of matter coming together and dissolving, then coming together again in a different form. This is our reality. This reality is God. How we experience this reality is dependent on our level of awareness. The nature of our soul depends on our relationship to God. This united state of non-duality needs to be entered repeatedly until we are established in it. This is our practice, to live our daily lives in service to God. The enlightened person has mastered themselves. Their ego is inactive. They know who they are, and they identify completely with themselves and not with the body or the mind. They are free from selfish attachments and remain unmoved in external sensations. They cease to see themselves as separate and have yoked all human passion to give love and serve consciousness. This person has reached their full potential here on earth, and they are flowing spirit full of joy and love. The one who does not cling to sensations from the outside, who finds joy in the self, and who joins with Brahman through yoga, reaches endless joy. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Nicole, for very beautiful and deep description on chapter 5, verse 21 of the Bhagavad Gītā. Indeed, your descriptions touch upon so many things, including the reality that God is source of universal energy, and how to see ourselves and bring or transform rather ego into joy and consciousness as a source of spiritual practices. And basically these are through yoga, essentially to find together. It's very interesting indeed, and how yoga can relinquishing our ego and eventually to reach the ultimate goals to have a complete harmony and love. Thank you so much once
you.
again. May I now give the screen to
Haripada Prema